My name is Chuck Miller, and I found out about Starting Strength online. I had been following Starting Strength for a few years. I've done the books, but when I found out they were opening one in the Boston area, I continued to follow it until the opening back in May of 2021. My goals for training had nothing to do with athletics at the time. I had no goals in regards to weight or certain movements. I was interested in health and fitness. I had had heart issues for years, and when I started doing exercise / fitness, I lost 30 pounds, and my blood pressure improved, my heart improved, my disposition improved, everything improved. But CrossFit was a bit of a grind for an old guy. I couldn't keep up with the kids on that stuff, and I actually liked the barbells much more. The thing I like most about the barbells is they're absolute in their measurement. I mean, success is success. You can either lift the weight or you can't lift the weight. You can either lift that number of reps or you can't lift that number of reps. When I was doing, as an example, CrossFit, of course, you're adding everything from jumping rope to medicine balls to running to box jumps, etc. So to try to figure out how you're progressing on weight when you're mixing it up with all those other movements was somewhat of a problem. So I stopped doing CrossFit, and that was probably 5 years ago. And then I did just Olympic weightlifting for a couple of years. And as much as I loved the Olympic weightlifting, I was getting competent at it, but I wasn't getting any stronger because I was getting better at the technical movements, but an hour or two a week of just doing clean and jerk, snatches, you don't actually get more weight on the bar like you would in a linear progression. The thing that appealed to me about the Olympic lifts was the discipline. I'll give you an example, and this was a personal issue. I'm 71 now. When I started, I was in my 60s. I couldn't do an air squat. I couldn't even get into a squat position without holding on to something. That was difficult enough. Then to actually hold something overhead, like a PVC pipe, doing a snatch, I couldn't do that. My body just didn't have that level of mobility, agility, etc. So I was thrilled when I actually got to the point where I was competent in getting a barbell overhead in a full squat. So the snatch is my favorite lift. I haven't done it for a couple of years because of other health issues, but it's kind of a milestone for me because I was able to get over my frustration of just being able to do a simple movement like a squat. Look at what we do in here with barbells, with deadlifts and back squats and that sort of thing. It's just a matter of routine now. And back then I couldn't even get into a simple body squat. As far as daily living, I haven't felt constrained by anything. I'm able to do yard work, lift barrels, move things around the house. I recently got into motorcycles. I've dropped my motorcycles in the driveway. I've dropped my motorcycles in the garage, and I'm able to get back on those, pull them up off the ground. I don't make a habit of dumping my motorcycle, but when you do, you have to deal with it. And there's oftentimes nobody else around. So to know that you can lift several hundred pounds off the ground, obviously not a deadlift because the bike is weighted and balanced, but nevertheless, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So there are things that I can do for recreation now that I wouldn't have been able to do a couple of years ago. And my doctors, by the way, they're thrilled with the changes that they've seen. I have my regular physician. He deals with all these old people like me, and he loves it when I come in because I argue with him about everything because he wants me to eat, the heart healthy diet, and I tell him no, I eat primarily meat and fat, and he rolls his eyes, but then he loves looking at my lab reports. So that's one of the things that I enjoy about it. My cardiologist, when I first started meeting with him, he was having fits about me doing CrossFit, and then the next thing you know, I go to an appointment, he's telling me, oh, I'm doing lifting now, I'm doing CrossFit. Then when I took some time off for other issues and recovered, He said, when you get back to the gym, I want you back under a barbell. That was his prescription, was I want you back under a barbell. And that was about the time that you guys were setting up shop here in the Boston area. So I was thrilled to do that. I've tried starting strength at home. The program wasn't the issue. The motivation is the issue. When you don't know what you're doing, adding 5 pounds to the bar works for a short time. Then adding 2.5 pounds works for a short time. Then you begin to fail. And you also have nobody coaching you on your technique. That's the difference when you come to the actual starting strength gym. The coaches are trained on the movement patterns. They're trained on coaching you regarding your limitations, your abilities, your age, your infirmities, or whatever, to help you work within those constraints or to push through them, depending on what they are. And I have had several coaches here, and they've been fantastic. Been able to deal with all of my issues, coach me, shame me into doing it right, but it's all in good humor, and they're interested in your success and your accomplishment. So that's been a big change for me. Okay, so to give you some background as to what my weight started off at when I first came into this gym, I was kind of dialed back to 0 because I hadn't done it for a while. My back squat was 75 pounds, and now I'm up to 210. Deadlift was 105. I'm now up to 265. Bench was 75. My max now is 145. That's a 1 rep. That's definitely not, 5 reps. An overhead press, that's always been my weakest lift, and that was 45, and now I'm up to 115. So I've seen some progress in all of those, and the biggest challenge that I've experienced with these weights is recovery is a challenge when you get sick and you lose momentum, and you have to be accepting of the fact that just because you lifted 225 last Friday, if you've been sick for a couple days or you haven't slept or your diet's off, the reality is that 225 may not happen this week. You may have to settle for 200, and that's not a problem. It's nothing to be embarrassed or ashamed about, but the recovery is critical. You get COVID, you get the flu, you have dietary issues, you have sleep issues, and they all take their toll, and you have to just roll with it. Today you may not lift as much. Today you may only lift 2 movements instead of 3 movements because you're fatigued, but you still keep coming, you still keep doing the work. Yeah, in fact, that's the nice thing about the coaches here is they'll kind of pick up on things. If they'll notice your lifts are off, they'll ask you the questions. How's your sleep been? Have you been eating enough? That's a big one I hear here, but are you eating enough? My wife confronted me this week. I said, I'm feeling weak. She says, you've been complaining about feeling weak for 2 weeks now. And she says, I've been noticing you're not eating enough. I said, what? She goes, you're not eating enough. She says, you're skipping lunch because you're working on your bikes, you're not eating. So I went back and I tracked my numbers. I put them in MyFitnessPal, and I looked at my total daily energy expenditure numbers on the calculator for my age, my activity level, etc. It said I'm supposed to be eating with 2,900 calories. I looked and I'm barely making 2,000. So for the past month, I've been shorting myself 750 to 1,000 calories a day. Well, I wouldn't have paid much attention to that, but that's the kind of stuff you hear from the coaches here. They'll pick up on it. What are you eating? Are you eating enough? Well, my wife's turning into a coach. So it's, those are the things that you need to hear. Are you eating enough? Are you sleeping enough? Training as opposed to just exercising. If you're looking to make progress, you have to pay attention to all those other variables outside of the gym, off the platform. Well, coming from CrossFit, I dealt with a lot of young people. I worked out with a lot of young people, and they definitely were monsters in some of the stuff that they could do. And it was very inspiring and encouraging. And I have to admit, I could have been terrified being in that environment, but I found all the people there to be very encouraging. And it just got to the point where I knew that wasn't the program for me after several years, so I wandered off. Here, one of the benefits that I found was that I've actually found an older demographic that they're less concerned about competition, because there was a very competitive aspect of CrossFit, which I enjoyed to a point. But then there's times where you just want to work out and train, and the mindset wasn't focused on training so much as it was the excitement of everything. Here, it's very laid back. The people that I've been blessed to work out with in the noontime class are mostly older people, 50 and up. So that's been kind of nice. There's a couple of us in our 70s, and it's kind of nice to be actually relate when you're seeing somebody lifting 200 pounds. To know that 200 pounds is a big deal. In other environments, 200 pounds, it's like they roll their eyes and, you're supposed to be lifting 400 pounds. Here, it's a very individual degree of success. And for a mature person, AKA old, this is a great environment because you do get coached, you do get nurtured, and they do recognize the fact that, yes, you do take longer to recover. Yes, you may need to only do 2 movements instead of, you can't do the program by the blueprint. You have to make adjustments based upon your age, your ailments, or old sports injuries, old whatever injuries. That's one thing that I've been blessed with. Since I was a lazy deadbeat for most of my life, I didn't have any sports injuries. I had no broken bones, no sprains, no back issues, no neck issues. So when I came into this, if I took care of myself and I paid attention to the coaching and didn't get myself hurt, I'm still able to progress. And that's been a real blessing. I followed Rip and Starting Strength for years. And the only stuff that I saw outside of Texas was he would do seminars around the country and that sort of thing. And I'd follow some of the stuff on YouTube or on the Starting Strength website, etc. But there was nothing ever coming around here. This gym's an hour from my home. And I know that there are more gyms popping up all over the place. I follow them on the website. You see them popping up in Orlando and all over the country. And this is a great thing. And I would encourage people who are interested in it and actually need some eyeballs on their lifts, even if they're perfectly well motivated. If you actually need somebody to actually critique your lifts, and you may not be comfortable or satisfied with the aggravation of online coaching and videos and that sort of thing, just keep your ear to the ground and hope that one shows up in a town near you, because it's a great program. The coaches are top notch. The community is great, and it's small. When I came out of CrossFit classes, there would be 40 or 50 people in some of these groups. So you didn't get a lot of individual attention. But in this one, in this environment, you get personalized attention. There may be a half dozen people in the class, maybe 8 people in the class, but every time you're on your work sets, you've got a coach watching your lift. He's critiquing you in real time. You don't do 3 sets of 5 on a video and then get critiqued as to how they've been crappy from the first one to the 15th lift. Here, soon as you screw up, you're corrected. Knees out, belly down, chest up, whatever, in real time. So you don't go through your entire work set with ingraining poor habits. You're corrected in real time, and then you actually make progress. So that's a real reason to look at this type of program. It's fantastic.